Hello everyone, welcome to Big Data Thoughts. So today we are going to talk about Google Gemini, which is a chatbot that Google has launched as a competitor of ChatGPT. In the last video we had some time back spoken about ChatGPT. So today we are going to talk about Google Gemini. So even before we talk about Gemini, it is important to understand some background as to why Google wants to bring up a chatbot into the market, which is going to compete with ChatGPT. So these are a bit old numbers from 2022, but this will give you a good idea of what is the share of Google's revenue in terms of Google search and other data, and this will set the background of why Google has brought up bot called Gemini. So if you look at this revenue graph, there are multiple ways in which Google is earning revenue: Google Cloud, apps hardware, YouTube ads, network ads. But the maximum of the revenue, which is 58%, is generated from Google search and other ads. So this is Google's major portion of revenue. Now let us look at the ChatGPT growth, and then we'll come to what is threatening Google. If we look at the time that Instagram took to hit 100 million users, it was 2.5 years. TikTok took 9 months to reach 100 million. ChatGPT, if we compare to Instagram and TikTok, took only 5 days to hit 1 million and just 60 days to hit 100 million users. So imagine the kind of impact, or imagine the kind of reach that ChatGPT had. If ChatGPT grows at this phase or this pace, by next year ChatGPT would have 1 billion users, and it will take away 25% of Google's market share. That's where Google is thinking, or is trying so hard to bring in a competitor to ChatGPT, because Google's market share today in terms of search is 91%. Today ChatGPT is small as compared to Google, but it may actually take away 25% of Google's market share. So if we look at both of these backgrounds of where Google's revenue is coming from, its market share, and how ChatGPT is catching up, you would automatically understand why Google wants to so aggressively have something to compete with ChatGPT. Now, why did Google bring in Gemini? Gemini came in 2023 December, and Google has this whole monopoly in the search market with 91% of market share. But that was threatened when OpenAI came in and it disrupted the entire search engine market. If you see the numbers in the last slide, ChatGPT is the fastest growing internet consumer business in the history. So definitely it is something for Google to worry about. That's the reason Google bought in a similar competitor chatbot called Google Gemini. Now, a little bit of background about Google Gemini. So Google Gemini was launched very recently on 6th of December 2023. Before this, there was something that Google had launched called Google Bard. We will talk about it in a bit, but it wasn't that successful. So Google claims that it is going to be a threat to ChatGPT, and we'll also look at why it claims it will be a threat. But what Google did, it came up with Google Gemini in 3 versions: Google Nano, Gemini Nano, Gemini Pro, and Gemini Ultra. The moment Google launched Google Gemini, or spoke about it, Alphabet, which is Google's parent company, their stocks rose up by 5%, which means essentially a gain of $80 billion in a single day, just with the announcement of something which is competing with ChatGPT. That's the scale of the reach that it would go to. Now let us also look at how Google and Microsoft are competing in the AI world, because that will give you a better perspective of why ChatGPT versus this Google Gemini, this whole conversation is coming up. So let's talk about both of the companies and how they advanced into their journey of AI. So Google bought a company way back in 2014 for more than $500 million, which was called, it was a startup called DeepMind. And there was a paper published in 2021, or a survey, which said that Google at that point of time had the highest number of research papers published on AI. Okay, and then when this happened in 2019, Microsoft invested $1 billion in OpenAI. It was a deal where it was said that OpenAI could use Microsoft's infrastructure, and in turn Microsoft can use OpenAI's technology to earn money. So that was a big announcement in 2019 after Google did the DeepMind acquisition in 2014. Now 2000 till 2021, Google was the company which had maximum number of research papers published on AI, which means they were really advancing well in the field of AI. 2019, Microsoft made this big announcement, and November of 22, ChatGPT was launched, which is launched by OpenAI, which is now posing a threat to the Google search market. So basically, it is even said that 2 years before ChatGPT came in 22, Google engineers had built a chatbot similar to ChatGPT, but they did not launch it considering safety issues, and that we may question that maybe that wasn't a right decision at that point of time because ChatGPT came in 22. But to counter that, now in March 23, Google brought in Bard, but Bard wasn't giving good results, and in turn Google lost $100 billion in share value. So Google Bard was a failure at that point of time in March 23, and this was brought in after ChatGPT came in, but it could not do well in the market, and that's when Google now has brought in Google Gemini. One more thing to notice, Microsoft, after ChatGPT was launched, Microsoft combined Bing, which is their search engine, with ChatGPT to converge search engine and generative AI. And it is said that the more data you feed to this generative AI chatbots, the better they get. So when it is combined with Bing and the searches happen, it gets enriched by the day. So there is a tough competition between Google, Gemini and ChatGPT that's for us to see in the future. But this is the background. Now let us talk about what is Google claiming about ChatGPT giving a threat to ChatGPT via Gemini Pro, and why is Gemini Pro better? Why are they claiming that? Let's look at that. So to go there, first we need to understand what is a multimodal system versus a natively multimodal system. Okay, a multimodal system means, if you take an example of a phone and a camera, a phone is built with functionalities like chatting, messaging, camera, audio, all of that. It's multimodal, but it was always built for these purposes. So it is a natively multimodal thing. But if you look at a camera, the primary purpose of the camera was to take pictures, and later on, if we add certain capabilities like having a Wi-Fi to transfer things, some communication mode, it is something like a plugin which was added later as an afterthought. So it is not natively multimodal. The camera became multimodal because it could do multiple functions, but it is just a multimodal system, not a natively multimodal. But if you look at the phone, from the beginning, the purpose, the intent was to have all of these things put in the phone. So it's natively multimodal. And that's what this is just to explain the difference between multimodal and natively multimodal. Now, if you look at Gemini, why Google says that Gemini is better is because they say Gemini is natively multimodal. It was built to work with text, image and video. Whereas when ChatGPT came in, it was built to work with text only. Later on, as an afterthought, image and video was added. That's the claim that Google makes, that Gemini is better because it was natively multimodal and built to work with all three. That is one of the reasons. Second thing, even before we go to the different types of Gemini, second thing that Google has an advantage over is Gmail, YouTube, Google search. All of these are collecting data. So Google has a lot of data which can be fed into Gemini and refine it. Now let's talk about Gemini versions. The first version is Gemini Nano, which is a very lightweight version which can be used on Android phones, and it can even run without internet. That's the lightest version of Gemini. The second version is Gemini Pro. This is a heavy duty version, and this is also the brain behind Google AI services, Bard, but this is a much improvised version. It has a well balanced performance and resource optimization. There's a good balance between both the things, resource optimization as well as performance, but this is a higher version or heavy duty version as compared to Gemini Nano. And the third version which it has come up with is Gemini Ultra, which is the most powerful version, and it is said to be designed for business or data centers. And that's a distinction from ChatGPT. Google claims that this is very, very specific to business and data center, and it is a best model to perform highly complicated tasks like reasoning, multimodal tasks. And a very interesting example is this. Okay, this is a screenshot I have taken for just a example to show you how Google Gemini claims to work. So this is a problem which was solved by a student. Now a physics problem which has been solved. It's a handwritten text. If you see, this is handwritten text. When this was given to Gemini, what it did, it could read the handwriting, it could read the question, and it could actually produce the correct answer, stating an elaborative answer as to how this question can be solved. That's the power of Gemini. So there are multiple things it is doing here. Of course, reading the question, interpreting even handwritten notes, looking at the solution, and then giving back the entire elaborated solution for this question. So this is just to show you an example. There are other things that Google claims Gemini can do, like if you give it pictures of raw ingredients, let's say an egg, other ingredients, and you ask how to make an omelette, it can actually give you a step-by-step guide. So it's supposed to be a very advanced kind of generative model, but it is for time to tell us how it fares up in the market versus ChatGPT. I hope this has given you a brief overview of what ChatGemini is, what are the different versions it has, and why was it brought in the market at the first place. Thank you everyone for listening. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much.